Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. And today, due to popular request, I'm going to be starting my first of three series on how to upgrade your gear in Maplestory. So first to first, I would just like to say, I might assume that you know at least some of these things in the video, like what a potential is or whatever, because that's the topic for today, is hidden potentials. Um, so yeah, I'll just go right away and get started. So I'm gonna use this item for reference. This item right here has something called potential. Potential is ranked in four ranks: rare, epic, unique, and legendary. Rare is the lowest and legendary is the highest. So when you're first starting off in the game, you'll realize that um, you'll get a lot of equipments that have hidden potential. Most of the time, those potentials, with the help of this button, will reveal it and make it um, reveal the potential, so it's no longer hidden. And most of the time, it'll start off rare. Basically, what you want to do from there is there's about three classes of cubes that you can use on your items. Sorry, my inventory is kind of messy, but pretty much you have occult cubes that range from rare to epic, and you get these from fighting off elite monsters and elite bosses, and also doing sudden missions. And I think they also drop them from events from time to time, but usually it's just from elite monsters and bosses. These cubes, as you play the game, you'll notice you'll rack up quite a lot of them. On my con itself, I have about 200 here, and you basically want to use these to help your new characters start off gearing. So, for example, sorry, I'm clearing my throat a lot. The coronavirus, you know what I'm saying? Just kidding. But you'll notice that most of your items are going to be rare. Sometimes, if you're lucky, you'll get an epic potential. But ooh, sorry. Basically, what you want to do, there's pretty much like three stages of gear that, three or four stages, depending on how you look at it, of I guess how your potentials can progress. I would like to say for early game, all the way until like level 150, um, all your potentials are more or less going to be rare. Um, and if you're lucky, they'll be 3%. That's usually the range for um, that you really care about in your gear. So if I were to open up my windows, you can see here I have int 18% total on these items, and they go up to 21. Basically, if you're trying to train your character efficiently, from levels 10 to 150, you're aiming for roughly 3% of your primary stat on your gear. And by primary stat, I mean if you go to your ability point, which one of these, when you click auto assign, does it automatically assign into? So you can see for mages it's int, warriors it's strength, archers it's dex, some pirates are dex 2, and some pirates are strength. Luck is for thieves. Um, what was I gonna say? Yeah. So basically, from level 10 to 150, you want to make sure you have, or you don't have to, you really don't need it, but you just want to, if you can, have 3% stat on each of your items. And after that, once you're past level 150 and you're going on to like, let's say level 180, 200, this is when you're going to start using some mesos and cubing your gear and going for epic potential, unique potential. You really don't need to go up to legendary potential unless you're farming in the later stages at about like 210, 220, maybe 230. I think I saw a video of some guy who was training with epic potentials all the way up until like 235. So I don't know how necessary that is. But it does help if you have higher potentials because you can get better stat. And these stats basically just increase your range so you can kill mobs a lot easier. So since we're on the topic of potentials, here are the three cubes that I've already gone over. One, Occult Cube. You're pretty much more or less going to only use this cube um, when you're trying to cube your epic or unique items. Not unique. Oh, I'm sorry, rare. Rare or epic items, and you basically, depending on the item, the highest line of percent stat is restricted to by its tier. So for equipment's level, I believe 80 and above, rare corresponds to 3%, epic corresponds to 6%, unique corresponds to 9%, and legendary corresponds to 12%. I'll just type that out there, and these guys are going to be like, what is this guy doing? But basically, for rare items, you just want to shoot for 3%, epic 6%, and usually one line will be fine if you're below level 200. One thing you can do is if you are 200 and your gears and all your equips are epic, you can shoot for 9% using occult cubes that have dropped, or you can even buy red cubes, which is one of the more expensive cubes that you can use to try to go for unique or legendary if you really want a tier up. But for me, what I do for most of my classes that are just level 200, I'll occult cube every single item to 9% stat, which is and they're all epic rank. So that's a 6% primary stat and a 3% primary stat, which is 2 lines. That's pretty much what you're shooting for if you want to be able to clear mobs easily at level 200, and you want that across all your equips. Your weapons will be a little different though, because your weapons are unique in that they can get a stat called attack and magic attack. Based on your class, you'll want mages, you want magic attack, everything else you want attack. Attack is pretty much the ultimate booster to your range, um, and it'll really help you out training early levels if you roll for percent attack. As you can see here, I have 21 magic attack, 21 magic attack, and 23 magic attack, and that'll really buff your range. So as you can see here, if I have this item, it gives me 537k range, whereas if I were to just equip an item, it's about the same, even though the item gives you all those extraneous stats when this is just 10. So it's like there's a balance between it all, but more or less you want to aim for 2-line attack if your items are epic, 2-line whatever if your items are unique. But most of the time you don't want to waste money on unique items just because you really want them to just get it to legendary and there's no reason to waste more. It's like if you happen to get 2 lines of something that's good for you, say your primary stat or attack at unique, you'll keep it and then roll the next thing. So enough talking, I'll show you how it works. So for a Occult Cube, like I mentioned, you want to aim for 2 prime lines, or not 2 prime, 2 beneficial lines. So I'm a mage, so I'll see right here if I can roll 9% int. Sometimes it can take a while. I'll just roll 9% stat, just to show you that it's possible. Right here, boom. If I was a warrior class, I'd be very happy. All 3 of these lines will give me range. 6% strength, 3% strength, all stats plus 5. And then you can equip it if you're a warrior and you'd be happy, and it would help you. Because if you had 4 of these, say everything was 9%, right? You'd have 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. 17 times 9, that's 96 to 3, 153% stat, which is a good amount. So that's basically what you want to do for epic gears. I'm not going to cover unique just because it's more of the same thing, but once you get into legendary, things are really interesting, as in for some classes like Kana, it's actually beneficial not to have stat lines but to have cooldown lines. As you can see right here, there's a skill called cooldown minus 2 seconds for a minimum cooldown of something. Basically this is useful because your main skill has a cooldown of 3 seconds, so if I were to wear this, it now has a cooldown of 1 second. Okay, maybe not. It feels just as long. Is this a scam? Feels exactly the same. Minus 2. Interesting. Okay. But yeah, I'll probably recube that. But I'll use the rest of these just to show you what they could be used for. So like for the reboot ring, see 2 lines of stat. I'll see if I can get lucky and get a 3-line here, but I'm really just doing this to show you. So what happens, you'll re-roll, and you can see this attack increase. It'll tell you if your item gives you or reduces range. You can see this reduces range because my 4 rings here are really good, in my opinion, for like the circumstance. So you're basically just rolling, and you ended up with 19, whatever. Most of the time, the only lines that you really want are the primary stat for your class or all stat, which is the same thing. It's exactly what you think it is. It just gives you 9%, 6%, 3% for every one of your stats. That's really beneficial for a class called Xenon, but most classes you would rather just have your primary stat. Of course, if you're low on cubes or whatever, you should always settle. It's like, if say you only had 100 occult cubes or whatever, and you have all these, it wouldn't be bad to just go for 6% epic or 3% rare and just see how strong you are from there, and then slowly upgrade. It's like a give or take. You don't want to hear something, right? You don't want to be like, oh, you need 9% on everything, and then shoot for 9% on everything, even though you don't have the resources at that moment. Say you only had the resources to get 6% on every item. Well, it would make more sense to aim for 6% on every item than to get 9% on two items. So that's the things that you really have to work out in your head. It's like, oh, I just did this first item. It took me 80 cubes to get 9%, and I only have 20 cubes left. Well, obviously, you're not going to aim for 9% again because chances are you won't get it. So it'd make more sense to just try to get one line of 6% so you get that bonus on your item, or one line of 3%. And I feel like these are the things people don't really tell you because most of the time, they're just like, oh, this is you're at this and you should end at this. Well, what happens in between when you're under the assumption that everyone has the infinite resources to do what your guide tells you? Well, that's not always the case. So that's why I'm primarily making this video, because I feel like people need to know that you don't need to aim for perfection all the time. Like, there's definitely people who have gears worse than this that are higher level than me and probably do more damage than me just because of how they've, you know, allocated their resources and like put their stuff into damage or whatever. I have most of my items aren't 17 stars. 17 stars gives a lot of damage range, which you all will learn later on in my next video. But yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say for potential. I'll go into the cash shop real quick actually. So, oh, sorry for the black bar, but there's two types of cubes: red cube and black cube. These are cheaper, so most people use these on legendary items that don't have any good lines at all to reroll. And then once people say get 3 lines of stat, say it's like 27% strength versus like the maximum is 36, but 36 is really unattainable. So a lot of people like to go for 30 or 33, and they don't want to lose that 27%. They'll use a black cube. They'll use almost double the amount of mesas just to ensure that they keep their lines and don't have to roll for it again. There will be events specifically called Double Miracle Time in which black cubes and red cubes have a higher chance to tier your items. In those cases, this is purely my opinion, but I definitely recommend using black cubes to tier up to legendary, and then using red cubes to cube for the stat that you want. I also like to wait to buy these cash shop cubes because oftentimes there will be 30% sales um, that Nexon just randomly decides to give out. There's almost always one during a double miracle time, which is why it's really good to wait for an event to cube. So when you're during that limbo period where there's really no sales going on, there's no events that are benefiting you, it's good to just, stock up on mesos and pile up, even though you really want to see their improvement in your damage. It's good to just save some of that. So say like you farm 10 bill, maybe storage 7 bill, and use 3 bill right away to upgrade your character so that when it goes on sale at 30% off later, you're getting things at a discount and you get more for your work. It's all a balance. If you don't need it, especially if you don't need to upgrade right away, it makes so much more sense to just save up and wait for the next event where you can get the most out of your hard work. Because after all, reboot's a lot of grinding, and you want to make sure that your work actually shows and gives you a benefit. But yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say about potentials. Hope you guys learned a thing or two, and just remember, a lot of those guys that are saying this is what you should have, really think about it for yourselves and process it, what makes sense and what doesn't, like I had mentioned earlier. So, but yeah, if you guys remember, these are the potential ranks for those of you who don't know: rare 3, epic 6, unique 9, legendary 12. And oh, I should say this too. You don't need to cube every item you get, because if you watched my last video, you'll know that you can transfer hammer up items that are of 10 levels. So for example, if I wanted to take this and I wanted to move it onto here, I could transfer it all onto this ring because it's higher level. So it only maxes epic, which is why I like to keep my items at epic, because you can transfer it up the chain all the way up until level 140 when you get your Pencilier gear, and then when you get your CRA gear or whatever gear, you can transfer up the next level and you won't have to recube it over and over again. You can keep your potential, and then it'll really help you up on saving cubes, because especially if you roll 9% early on and you can just ride it all the way up, it'll save you from having to cube a new item every 10 levels or whatever. So yeah, thanks for watching, guys, and please subscribe if you learned something or if you enjoyed the video, and have a great day, stay healthy, and practice social distancing.